Welcome to this tutorial on how to make a button in P5js. Sorry. So this tutorial is going to be using open processing, and we're going to look at how to create a button. So the first thing we're going to do is, if you have got an account in open processing, make sure you're logged in so you can save it. Create a new canvas. It should auto pick P5js as the mode, but if it hasn't, just on this right hand side, just open up this little menu. If it's not open, just make sure it's on P5js. I've also got my text up nice and large so you can see what I'm doing. So over on the left hand side here, we've got our setup and our draw functions. Now we will be using this little button up the top here. It's not normally there, but next to our files, we might be creating another file which is going to be for our buttons. So the basic principle behind a button is that when your mouse travels within the screen, around the screen, we have a position. When that position goes over our button, we want it to highlight, and then when we click on it, we want to know when it has clicked. You have clicked on the button, and we'll do some sort of action with it to demonstrate that we clicked the button. Now, we first need to look at how we are going to create our button. And you think about any sort of program, it's got a lot of buttons on it. And we could write each individual button, but we're going to make something called a class of type button. And we're going to make up our own button that we can use several times so that we're reusing the code each time, so we don't have to write hundreds and hundreds of lines of code. Say we only have to write 100 lines of code, and we just make copies of that code in our program so that it doesn't get all clogged up with the same code running, having to be written every single time. So in order to do this, we're going to create a class. So now we're going to create the button. So first thing we need to do is we need to clear some of this code. We don't need that bit of code, and we'll leave the rest of it here. We're going to leave our background here, but probably going to move that down to our draw loop. At the moment, if we run this, we should get a blank screen. And when we come back, we still have our code. So we're going to go up to this little plus button up the top here, and we're going to click on it. Creates a new tab. Now, how do we rename the tab? So we don't really need to rename the tab, but we can. So if we double tap on it, we can go button, just so we know what we're doing. At this stage, it might be also a good idea to save your project. Make sure you're logged in, and I'm going to call this project button. Let's just say we got it saved. It's always a good idea to save your project. Alright, let's get back to the code. We now have these two files at the top here. We're leaving this one alone, and we're going to go over to the button tab first. So, what do we need here? There's a few things we're going to need. The first thing we're going to need is we're going to need to create a class. A class is basically, if you think about, you have a brick. A brick is a class. We've got a brick. When we build a house, we have hundreds of bricks, thousands of bricks. But we know what a brick looks like. We know what it feels like. We know what it sounds like. Yeah, we know how much it weighs. So we can just copy the brick and just put it in different locations to build our house. A class is pretty much the same. We're making one brick so that we can just copy it, move it around, and put it wherever we need it. Now, we're not making a brick, we're making a button. So we're making one button, and then we're going to be able to use it, copy it everywhere else, and you maybe make a menu system or make the interface to a program. So the first thing we're going to create is a class. That's basically our brick. We're going to call it button so we know what it's all about. And we're going to put some squiggly brackets at the top and the bottom. Beautiful. Now we're going to make a bit of space in here. The first thing is when we create a new brick, we want to set the brick up. And this is called the constructor. And we need some squiggly brackets on that. Now, if you hit Control B, B for button, Control B on the keyboard, it will neaten up your code and make it look nice and pretty, just like mine is. So, what do we need for a button? There are a few things we need. If I draw another button here, we have, there's a beautiful looking button. I probably should have done that before. We need its position, so we need its X and its Y coordinate. We also need its width, how long it is, and we need how tall it is, which is our height. So there's some of the bits of information we need. We also need to put some text on it. And we also need, obviously, the color. That we want it to be. So what color is our button going to be? They're the primary things that we need when we're creating a button. So we're going to go ahead first and create the first part of that, which is we need some sort of way to figure out where it is in the XY coordinate. So we're going to set up a few variables now to figure out where it is in terms of its position. That's what we're looking at. So we go to this, and this is relating to the button. This. So each button we create has its own this, and we go pos X, and we need a semicolon, and then this position Y. They're two really important ones. And then we need this dot W for width, lowercase, this dot Y. I'll make it really easy to figure out those. And then we need some other things. I'm going to leave them alone for the moment. We're just going to, we're not going to worry about color and the text just yet. We'll get the button created first. We want to need some other things, other variables, like stuff like when you click the button. Is it clicked? Are you even hanging over the button? That sort of stuff as well. So we will need to figure out that as well. Okay, so this is our start point. Now, we're going to give these some variables, so we need to get some inputs. So we're going to go let A, let's go X, let Y, let width, and let height up in here, and it does not like me putting that there, so maybe if we just get rid of those. Let's see, that should work. Let's just run our code, see if we get any errors. No, we don't get any errors, so we didn't need the lets, not in this language at least. Some languages require you to define the type of variable you're using with your constructor, but not in this one. Now, we need a couple other things down here, down after our constructor. So we're going to use these. Actually, let's set that up first. So position.x equal to x. That's that variable there. So when we build a constructor, we want it in a particular position. Maybe we want it at, I don't know, 20 and 30, and then we want the width, so that would be that position there, this 20, 30, and then we want the width to be 100, and we want the height to be equal to 200. Boom. So that's what we do when we set it up. But for the moment, we're just putting these in to set them up. Oh, I made a mistake there too. That should be a H. Cool. All right. So we've got a Yeah, make mistakes in code all the time, doesn't matter. Alright, so we've got X, Y, width, and height. When we create the button, we'll put numbers in there. We don't need to in the class, we just will when we create an instance of this button, so make a copy of this button. We set up the position into its own variable in a this, and we've got a this Y, and we've got a this width, and a this height. Alright, that looks pretty good. So, I'm going to go back over to our main sketch. And this is where we're going to set up our first button. And we're going to go, maybe it's call this button color change equal to, and this is where I want to put those numbers in. So we're going to go 20, 30, to 100, 200. See how we've lined up 4 things. Now we're getting an error here. I'll just go check what that error is. So our error up here is saying we don't want to assign the type it is up here. It just wants to set it to let, just like we normally would on the first line. So a little mistake there, but that's okay. Haven't done a lot of programming in this language, slightly different to the language I'm used to writing in. So, but color change is the name of the variable. Its type is button, and we've got where we want to locate it. So that's our X. That's our X. That's our Y. That's our width. This is our height. That's pretty good. So this is creating our button. Now, we've created this button, but we can't see it yet. So we're going to set up something so that we can see it on the screen. Because if I run this code right now, go back to my mouse, run this code, nothing comes up. Button's not defined as well. Interesting. We've got a little error here. I'm going to have to fix that too. So the error stating at the moment is buttons undefined. So it doesn't want us to be able to define it up here. So we're going to move all this code down under our canvas. So we need to create our canvas first. And we're going to have to define it down here. Now I'm going to clear the screen. Pretty sure I can clear screen. Clear screen, there we go. Go back to our mouse. Now that should run now. Whoop. New, we need new. So we need a new button. That's how we make a copy. There we go. We got no more errors. So we've learned a few things. We need to create a variable that we want to make at the start. We can't assign it unless we put it inside the setup function. So this inside this function. And we need new before our button so that it makes a copy of our button of our class. So that's everything we've got so far. Now, it all runs without errors now. That's pretty good. This is where you go and save your work. It's really important that you save your work every once in a while. If the program crashes, you lose everything until your last save. So make sure you do a bit of saving. Now, our color change button doesn't appear. Nothing comes up. So we've got to go back into our button class and make it appear. So we're going to have to create something to get it to appear. Now, how we're going to do this is we're going to create some more functions in here. We can make our own functions. We're going to call one render. It's a good way of knowing this is where everything that we want to be displayed is put into this bit of code. And we want our button to be a rectangle. And now we've got our positions. So we've got this, got position X. Just watch the capitalization on that. This dot position, position Y, this dot width, and this dot height. So that's our 4 variables. So that's our X, our Y, that's our width, that's our height. Alright, so we've got this now render function. Alright, let's see if we can go use it down in draw. So our color change dot render. See if it likes that. Hey, we got a box. we got a box, we got a white box, and we've got a box, and it worked. So this is our button. This is awesome. This is a great button. It's an amazing button. Now, we've got to get more working with our button. So we've got it rendering. That's awesome. This is what we want. We're getting to the nitty gritty stuff now. What is the nitty gritty stuff that I'm talking about? Now we need to get some text involved in here. And we're going to add another variable at the top here called text. And this dot text is going to equal to text. Now, text. So, go back over here. So I just add another variable to our constructor called text so that we can put some text on this button. And we set up our this variable for text so that we can use it. Now, that means that this line of code here has got 1, 2, 3, 4. We now need a fifth variable. When we write text, we need quotation marks. So this button is going to be change, put spaces in, color. And I'm going to write the Australian way. Write the Australian way there. Not sure why. Doesn't matter. Now, does this do anything? Not yet, because all we've done is set up a variable. We've set this variable up, but we haven't done anything. We haven't displayed it to the screen. And we want to display it to the screen, so we're going to put in a normal text function. And instead of writing the text, we're going to go this dot text. And we're going to set up this position. Now, this is the tricky part. This is a little bit trickier now. So we're going to have to use this dot position x plus this dot width by 2. Now, that's getting now like nice and complicated. So what I'm saying is, draw my rectangle. I'm going to go back to my pen, get an orange, saying we're going from this side, and we're getting the full width. This is the whole width, and we want to divide it by 2. So we only get this bit. So if this is our full screen, we're getting the first part, which is the width, the x, this is x, and then we're getting width divided by 2. So we're going x plus width divided by 2. That's really in brackets. That'll happen first. So with this will pop out the answer. That will get our position here. But we don't know where along this line at the moment. So we're going to have to do the same thing this way. We're going to get our height plus half of the height here. Or sorry, this should be y. Let's go just back to here. Oh, made a little mistake. I'm going to make a few mistakes. It's okay. This is y plus height divided by 2. That's what we're going to write down here now. Second bit. I'll just erase this so it's not in the way. So you can read it. So we're going to go back to here, and then we're just going to go this position y plus this dot. Oh, what did I say? I said width. I should have said w there. There you go, w. Because we just did w to make it shorter. Divided by 2. Boom. So just check that line of code really carefully. You've got this dot text, you've got this position x plus this w divided by 2, and then this position y plus this h divided by 2. Alright, so you just really got to check that line of code. Now when we run this, hopefully we get no errors. Cool. It comes up with color change. Perfect. Now it's not perfectly in the center of our button, but we're getting there. We're getting there. So we're going to add a few more lines of code. So we need one line of code that looks something like this. It is text line. And we're going to go center. Oops. Now this is where a case sensitive comes into play. Center. Pretty sure that's the line of code we need. It might be a little bit different. We'll find out. Nope, that one put it in the center. So I put it in the center on center. And that's the line of code we need. Now, if we wanted to make our text a little bit bigger, we could go text size and make it maybe 20. But also our button's not very well structured and it won't fit. So let's go fix our button. I'm going to clear the screen. Just go erase the screen, clear the screen, boom. So here we go. We've got 20, 30, that's our X and Y position. Now we've only got 100 here across. So I'm going to make that a bit bigger. I'm going to go 300 across. I'm going to make our button not so tall. We're just going to make that 100. There we go. So when I change this, boom, that's our button now. Perfect. It's a good looking button. If I wanted to move it around, put it more towards the center, I could change that. Push it across, or push it even more across, like 600 across. There we go. And if I wanted to move it down the screen a bit, I could change this number, move it down the screen a bit. But that's our button at the moment. It's a good looking button. It's got a name. It's got size. We don't have color yet. That's all right. We'll fix color in a minute. But we've got a few different things going on for us. So, what's next for our button? Well, the next thing for our button is let's do color. Let's make it look pretty. Alright, so we need to put color into it. Oh, that means we need red, green, blue. We need 3 numbers. And this dot cool. Tell you why in a minute. Why it's got a couple equals color red, green, blue. We're going to use that to make color. Now I got a capital in that one because it's a variable, because there's a special name there, and if we run this, it will work, but we get a crash because we didn't have any variables done set. Because over here we've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 variables, and now we've got 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's go put some numbers in here. Now I want my button to be, let's go a bit more blue than anything else. So we're going to go 200. Ooh. Oh, we're going to go 0, 0. Let's make it 200. Now, cool. We've got those in, but we haven't done anything with it yet. So we need to make our rectangle. We need to fill our rectangle with this color. And we can write this dot color. Now for our text to stay black, we need to go fill 0, make sure it stays full. So just remember, you do sometimes need to set in a few fills so that we don't destroy our color system. Oh, our blue is very blue. So we're going to go change that number. I think I need to give it a bit of other stuff to make it. Yeah, it's a purpley blue, but it's a good blue. What if I did that to 255? This is a good thing. You can just muck around with colors. Oh, that's pretty good. We've got a purpley blue and we've got a black text. Perfect. That's what we want. So we've set up our button. What have we done? We've constructed it. We've set up its position. We set up its width. We set up its height. We gave it some text. And we gave it some color. We made all that work. Now, I've been saying that you're able to copy and make lots of copies of this button. Up here in our variables, that's our first button. Maybe our second button is going to be something different. See how it doesn't like the fact that we've got that variable declared? We're going to call it something else. Maybe we'll call this the menu button. And we're going to copy this line of code again. And we're going to call it menu. And then we're going to change things. The name's going to be called menu. Position's going to be somewhere else. Okay. And we're going to change the color to being more red than blue. Now, we also need to set one more thing. Menu dot the. So there's three things to create a new button. We had to set the variable, we had to actually create it and change our parameters, and then we had to render it to the screen. Boom, I got another button. It's down here, beautifully set up. And I could just keep creating buttons. I'm not going to, but you could just keep creating different buttons. And this is how this bit of code here gets used multiple times by being able to create little buttons. So you need to make at least 4 buttons in your project, and that's going to be the first step. Make sure you do save your work again when you get to this point so that you don't lose all your work. Now, we've done all the cosmetic part of it, so the viewing part of it, the nice look of it. We haven't done the functionality of the button yet, and that will come in the next video. Alright, so this is part 1. Part 2 will be the functionality of how the button works.